Welcome to part 3 of the Gifts of the Spirit for New Generation. I'm your host and author, Dr. Kerry Wood. I want to introduce my lovely assistant, who happens to be my wife, Dr. Kerry Wood. She also serves as an academic dean for an online university and pastors Table of Friends ministry together with me. And we love doing ministry together. And I'm just happy she's here with me.
It's my pleasure.
I want to, first of all, say I hope you're enjoying the book. I hope the Holy Spirit is really churning some things in you and stirring some desires in you to covet the partnership with Holy Spirit, to function in ways that are beyond what we can do naturally and move in supernatural ministry to touch and bless and heal people, because that's really what it's about. And of course, the foundation of everything under this book is the nature of God is first and foremost love. And he's moved with compassion to heal people. And that's what he wants to do through his church, through each one of us. So compassion is the motivator, the driver behind all the gifts of the Spirit. As we move into part 3, we're really looking now at the how-tos, the real practical side of what hinders us from moving into the gifts of the Spirit. We'll talk about both external and internal hindrances. And then we'll talk about how to cultivate the gifts of the Spirit. And of course, that's going to be all about relationship with Holy Spirit, how we learn to build that relationship on a regular basis. So chapter 8, as you would see, is just a short 2-page preview that really says that. It says what we're about to move into is simply the understanding that what we do is in relationship with Holy Spirit. And the better we build that relationship where we're talking to Him, engaged in conversation with Him, seeing people through His eyes, then the more we're going to be used in the gifts of the Spirit. So we jump into chapter 9.
Wonderful. So chapter 9, we're starting to talk about the external hindrances. And so this is really the most practical section of the book, this part. So can you tell us a little bit about how you became so comfortable with moving in the gifts of the Spirit? Tell us a little bit about your history.
Well, I understand that my background would be different from many, but I grew up in church. I was born again, gave my heart to the Lord when I was 5 years old. And then I was filled with the Spirit in a Pentecostal church when I was 9 years old, and I began to cultivate that relationship. Well, in the churches that I grew up in, it was very normal for us to pray a lot. We prayed an hour before the services. We would pray in the altars afterwards, and we would see God do some incredible things in church. I saw many healings. I saw moves of the Spirit, tongues and interpretation of tongues, prophecy, miracles. I saw miracles all through my childhood and growing up, so it cultivated a heart and a hunger in my own life. It became normal for me. I thought, this is the way every Christian is supposed to live. So I've always had a desire to flow with the Holy Spirit and the gifts.
So are you saying that the, let's call it the external environment of the church that where we grow up, the church where we worship, has a big impact in how we perceive and how we can move in the gifts of the Spirit?
Yes, of course. If you're never exposed to it, if you've never heard anybody pray in the Spirit, then that would seem strange to you at first. If you grow up with people praying out of their spirit in a language that the Holy Spirit gives, then that becomes normal to it. If you grow up seeing people receive healing by the laying on of hands, that becomes normal to us. So environment has something to do with it, although if you've never been raised in that environment, that doesn't mean that you're behind. It simply means that you have a clean slate and the Holy Spirit can begin to teach you from scratch, which is an exciting place to be.
So what would you say to those people who didn't grow up around the gifts of the Spirit? They've never had that modeled for them. What could they do practically to get more comfortable, more familiar with that and cultivate that?
Well, part of that answer really is going to be dealt with in chapter 11 and 12, where we're talking about the cultivating the gifts of the Spirit. But the two things I would say primarily is begin to cultivate your own relationship with the Holy Spirit. Turn everything into a question with Him. When you see something you don't understand, maybe you're going through an experience that's traumatic, ask the Holy Spirit. Ask Him. He's living inside of you. Holy Spirit, what do you want to tell me about this? Speak to me about this. And prayer language is a huge part of this, because the more I let the Holy Spirit pray through me, the more normal it becomes for Him to speak in me and me to hear. The other thing would be find people that hang out with the Holy Spirit, people that this is kind of normal to see people receive healing, words from God. find those kinds of people and hang out with them any way you can, whether that's with books or tapes or whatever that might be.
Wonderful. So are there any final thoughts just as we wrap up this chapter?
As you jump into it, just turn everything you read into conversation with Him. Again, say, Lord, I haven't seen this before, or I haven't experienced this. Would you show me someone? Would you lead me to someone that is walking in this kind of walk? And hopefully the book not only generates the hunger for it, but shows you some ways to do that as well. Hope you enjoy this chapter.